So let's get started. So welcome everyone. Quality coaching becomes a trending topic in the last couple of years. And the need of an agile quality coach within agile teams is continuously increasing. In this webinar, we want to share with you the latest trends related to quality coaching that could help you boost your experience and understand the role in depth. Also, we will share with you practical examples from our own experience in this role, as well as the challenges we encountered and how we addressed them, and also some useful exercises at the end. So, before starting, let me introduce our speakers for today. We have Marianne and Evelien joining us from Sogeti Netherlands, and myself, Emna, from Sogeti France. Actually, we met last year at Kieks Day Netherlands the first time, and also we met at Agile Testing Days Germany. The good thing and the funny thing is like we have a different common passion. The three of us work as an Agile quality coach within teams and organization. And could you mute your microphone? So the three of us work as an agile quality coach on team and organizational level. We have common passion like doing sketch notes. You will notice that during this presentation in some of the slides we have sketch notes. And also we are frequent speakers at conferences and we enjoy facilitating workshops. So let's get started. Actually, before starting everything, I want to ask you what's your current role in your assignment? So could you please tell us what's your current assignment? It could be from coaching, testing, development, whatever. Feel free to share that.
Hi, I'm part of Sogeti India testing, part of practice team.
Okay, good to hear. So the question is going to be available using Teams. So please submit your answer using polls.
You can find it in the chat or in the poll pop-up.
We've got a lot of answers already, so that's nice.
Yes, quality coaching, Scrum Master, Agile Coach, test automation is quite large as well.
Yeah, so we see lots of roles and all of them are part of IT teams. But I'm sure that quality coaching is like the role that collaborate with all these roles. But I wonder what quality coaching is. I'm not sure if it's already familiar role to every one of you. So this is going to be the topic of our next slide. Not sure if you still need some time to put your answer. I see some answers coming. I'd like to call Evelien to tell us more what is the quality coaching role and why we need that role in agile teams.
Yes, thank you, Emna. Yeah, why quality coaching? I mean, we are talking about it, but why is it important? Well, quality, as you know, touches everything and everyone. It's very important for the value closely related to the value that teams deliver, organizations deliver to customers. So because quality touches everything and everyone, it is also a whole team responsibility. It's not only the product owner who is responsible for the quality. It's not only the tester. It's not only the developer, not only the user. I mean, it's a whole team responsibility, and that sounds really obvious, but it is also very practical. We'll go into that in more detail. So why the coaching? Well, nowadays teams and organizations want to be involved instead of being told what to do. Teams are responsible themselves for delivering value, so they also need that space to find their own way of delivering quality. And when there is a manager who says you have to do this or that, or you have to do this kind of testing, or you have to do that kind of activities, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, they will do it, but yeah, well, perhaps you can recognize that. So the coaching is very important. So the role, Agile Quality Coach. An Agile Quality Coach is a role that challenges and supports a team or organization to actively building quality together by either coaching, facilitating, training, or mentoring, depending on the need. And this is the definition of the role that Sogeti, that we use it. And what's important here is that it's a role. And a role can be fulfilled by a lot of different functions and other roles. For example, a quality engineer or a tester can be a quality coach, but also a scrum master, and that's often what we see here in the Netherlands. But also a product owner can also be a quality coach. There can also be a separate quality coach, like an agile coach for a whole team. So that's so that's important to know. Quality coach. Let me see what else. So next slide, please.
Yeah.
And that's about the trends that are going on, and Marianne will tell us something about that.
Yes, so hi everyone, my name is Marianne. Quality coaching trends. So one of the things we're talking about here, quality coaching, Evelyn just explained what it is. What we've been seeing in the market in the past few years especially is that there's a move going from a lot more testing to quality engineering. It's interesting how these things go. So we used to move from waterfall to agile to DevOps and CI/CD, which is still obviously a trend that is ongoing. And similarly with the tester role, it used to be a separate function. And the awareness is slowly rising that testing is an activity instead. Quality engineering is a much broader, holistic view on quality. It is building quality products from the start, building in quality, and it really focuses on building the right things at the right time, at the right level of quality as well. It encompasses a whole team responsibility and includes a lot of business activation. And it's interesting as well, like testing as a role and then as an expertise is still something that we see in a lot of companies today, but we do see that shift happening more and more and more towards a view of quality as a whole. And the quality coaching role is something that really helps this transition as well for companies. So rather than focusing on what do we test or how do we, ensure that we have built the right things, we focus on bringing in quality much earlier, having the discussions, but also creating a culture in which we build the things right. Now, around the world, quality coaching has been taking off in the previous years. Vern and Richard, quality coach seems to be a role that is becoming more prominent in organizations and teams across the globe, and it is something that many testers have naturally evolved into or inspired to become. It's something that we within Sogeti also recognize. About 4.5 years ago, we placed the Agile Quality Coach role as a separate function in our organization and started to market it. And we were one of the first in the Netherlands to do so. And what we've really found is that that unique combination of coaching on quality from that expertise, that deep expertise from quality, is something that brings a lot of value. Now, around the world, Anne-Marie Sharrett is one of the leading examples when it comes to quality coaching, and she's writing a quality coaching book that she's delivering in a newsletter regularly. And I'd really advise anyone who's interested in this to also go and subscribe to the newsletter. She offers a lot of teaching around quality as such. And the quote that we put up, as a software tester, you ask, how do I know the product is good enough? Whereas as an Agile quality coach or as a quality coach, you ask, how does the team know if the feature is the right one to build, if the product is built right, and if the product continues to support our customers beyond deployment? Now, what you already see within this quote itself is that it is much more broader than just a product. It's about the whole culture of the organization and the dynamics in which a team is functioning, which stakeholders there is, which makes the quality coach role so interesting, because we still have that deep test expertise, but we bring that responsibility towards the team. Now, one of the ways that Sogeti offers this to clients is via an improvement project, an improvement program, as it were. Well, we can do an assessment and we can help them. So that is what this slide is about. The Agile Quality Improvement Framework is really focused on business drivers, the impact that we are making, the different types of quality values that are vital there. I'm hearing someone in the background. Is that just me or? Okay. And there are a number of key areas. So we have this Agile Quality Improvement Framework to help organizations look at quality from much more a higher business level. But at the same time, this is one of the ways in which we approach it. And the other is one that Evelina already mentioned. We have the new book, the Quality, well, a newer edition of the Quality for DevOps Teams book, of course. And one of the things mentioned in there is, for instance, the voice model, which you can look up at the TeamApp website. And it really there also focuses on business drivers, but much more on a team level. So when we look at quality coaching strengths, we see that quality coaching globally is really taking off, and it really has taken a huge we've seen a huge uptake in the last 5 years. It's becoming much more popular and effective, as well as the group of people who are working on quality coaching is growing and sharing their experiences. And that's an exciting thing to be a part of. I think for now, we're going to look at the main challenges first, and we'll circle back to some of the questions later.
Yes, challenges. Challenges. Yeah, this is your turn. Sorry, Emma. I was too quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we're going into the challenges for on Agile quality coaching, but because of course the theory and the ideas are already always really nice, but practice is a bit harder, as we all might have noticed. So could you put into the chat in a really short answer, in a few words, like what is your biggest challenge at this moment around quality in software? Just put it in the chat, and we'll have it, see what people can come up with. So short answers in the chat. See already some
ambiguity in requirements. There are so many problems to tackle, and reveal 3 more. Quality focus and clear user story. Yeah, that's a very common challenge.
Like ambiguous requirements also.
Yeah, customer not ready for that.
Yeah, don't be rushed. Yeah, that's I think also something a lot of us recognize.
Yeah, quality without test room. That's a very common one, that they don't like to invest too much, but they want a good quality.
Yeah.
Stress, team burnout. Yeah, those are different challenges. And if you'd like to share any other challenge, feel free to do. Now we are going to share some challenges that we faced ourselves, and how we addressed that. So Evelyn, can you tell us more about
Really
this?
like, all those challenges. I'm not the only one. I think
That's
that,
what
Yeah,
I always love.
let's
Indeed,
take.
every time we ask this
Let's
question, you
talk.
get such a shared understanding.
exactly. So when we
Yeah,
talk about challenges,
let's
it helps for me really to think about the culture of quality. And culture, that's a way of thinking. And these 8 points can really help in that regard. And so I'll go through them in a short way. The first point is, of course, quality is a whole team responsibility. We've tackled that before. Next one is the DevOps, that we all solve the problem. I mean, it's not them and we, but it's together. And also some of the points there were like, okay, we've got different teams, but how do we arrange the overall quality? That's also part of this point. Build quality in. Quality can be really practical. It's like building. It's not something vague that you talk about like, oh, we need quality. It's very important, but okay, then what do we do? This really makes it practical, like ensemble testing or exploratory testing or good requirements and good refinement sessions, and the responsibility of the product owner, etc. Shift testing left and right. That's also the idea of or link to the other point of testing is not a phase, it's an activity. And that activity can be done really early in the process, which is important to already know what the quality is in the beginning of what you're doing, but also in production, you can also do a lot of things like observability and even testing in production, which you can hear stories about that more and more. Good test design, because hey, testing is not only about thinking in a logical way, but we've got really nice techniques for that. But testing is not a phase, it's an activity that I talked about earlier. Small experiments, that's something that I'm trying to do in my own assignment now. I'm a quality engineering lead at a client, and we do small experiments like, okay, how can we increase the cooperation between the business and the IT in this specific epic? Or how can we do a little experiment on performance testing? And that really helps to get everybody enthusiastic about the results. And the last thing is disposable tests. Do we have to keep all the tests, or can we just make tests and throw them away after we've used them? Just also that discussion is really important. So these 8 points are, okay, you go back a bit?
Yeah.
Sorry. These 8 points are really, can help you to make also in your organization a culture of quality. But okay, then we come to the challenges. Thank you, Amna. Because quality coaching, when you're trying to do that, it's really important to talk about the mandate and the positioning of the role within the team and organization. Because as you know, if somebody doesn't want to be coached, you can do a lot of coaching, but that doesn't help at all. So it's important to know that you have the mandate also from the team that you're helping. Like, okay, we want to be helped, or yes, please help us to solve some problems. It's also important to have a mandate from a manager or a lead who really understands that the quality culture. At this moment, I have such a how do you say that? Opdrachtgever.
The client, really.
Client, yeah. I have a client that really understands it, and it really helps. So you're quite dependent on that. So that mandate and positioning is really important to think about. And also the roles of the scope of the Agile coach and the Agile quality coach. It's important to explain that focus on quality, and that it's really practical, and that you cooperate also with Agile coaches and not seeing it as sort of distant thing, or that you're competing. That's of course not the case. And last but not least, it takes time. Added value takes time, because the activity of changing takes time. These things don't go overnight. And of course, in these times, we all want to have quick results, and we want to show what impact we have. So you can make small changes and show that impact already quickly, solve small problems and show them to the organization, and make people enthusiastic. But also be realistic that you can't change a whole team in 3 weeks, or that you can change a whole organization in 1 year. It takes time. So challenges, but also benefits. And
Yeah.
now,
Thanks, Evelyn, for sharing these challenges. And of course, having an agile quality coach within your team, there are lots of benefits. We want to share a few of them. One of the things, as an agile quality coach, you are going to facilitate different activities within teams. You will involve testers, product owner, developers. So you are going to remove silos within teams already. And also, when there are different teams, different dependencies, you are going to work with, let's say, all of them. So this is a good reason to remove silos and stop over the wall attitude. So you will have people talking earlier in the process instead of testing at the end. Testing, we said, it's becoming an activity. So testers and developers start pairing in the beginning while they are understanding the user story, for example, by running the 3 amigos session or example mapping or other exercises, which means this allows us to get faster feedback instead of implementing and getting at the end the feedback. So while pairing and exchanging with developers or product owner, you will get much faster feedback, which is very good to improve in case there are anything that is not going well. And also, we are going to have a quality product at faster pace. So we won't wait until the end to get a good quality product, because we are building in quality into the product. And it's also a learning opportunity. As an agile quality coach, I contribute to running our internal community at the client side with different teams. So whenever there is a learning from one team, one squad, we try to generalize this learning within the whole organization so that everyone who needs this topic could benefit from what others has done. And also to get inspired how to solve this problem differently, how to implement this new feature. So this is a great learning opportunity, and an agile quality coach is a good facilitator of this opportunity. And another point, involving the team and organization instead of directing. So we already mentioned that the whole team is already involved, and you can involve different teams across different squads. So this is a good opportunity to collaborate between all of them, which leads to happier teams and organization. And we already mentioned that we are building in quality, we are moving toward continuous testing. So in every development activity, there is a testing activity that corresponds, and this by pairing together, by involving the whole team into quality. So those are a few of the benefits, and I'm sure there are even more. Now we'd like to move to an experience story. So Marianne is going to share with us a story, a whole team quality, how they moved into whole team quality approach. So Marianne, the floor is yours.
Yes. So one of the things about being an agile quality coach is that sometimes it can feel very intangible. So I'll start off by actually answering the question that was raised and how it tied in, how my story about the quality coaching tied in with Evelina's comment about how anyone can be a quality coach. I think that comment originates from the perspective that quality coaching can start from any position in an organization. And very often we find that we're not placed as an agile quality coach to start with, but that's a position that grows. So the experience story that I'd like to share with you today is a team where I was directly involved as the tester and the scrum master of that team. And, you know, I was hired to change their testing process, but I was also hired to actually do the testing itself. It was a large data warehouse, data vault team, you know, lots of data flows, very technical, lots of SQL and Oracle and fun stuff. I like it. I like working with those things. And, you know, we were happily working away, and I was doing some implementation of building a quality culture and moving away from the tester as a gatekeeper role. Now, we wanted to start with the whole team quality and really make the team responsible for quality. And luckily and unluckily, we had a great catalyst. So Amna, if you can switch to the next slide. So as I said, this isn't something that we you know, that started because I got ill. It had already started and it got accelerated. I was the tester in the team, I was the single tester in the team, and I got pregnant, which was great, except for the fact that I completely wrecked my body. And so within a period of about 2 weeks, I had to reduce my hours twice, which meant that I went from working 8 hours a day to working 2 hours a day. Very quickly and very rapidly. Now, that obviously meant that I could not continue to do the testing role as, you know, all of the responsibilities that I had before. And we really needed to hand it off to the entire team, which they were happy to take off. As I said, we were already on the process of doing this and we got accelerated. So what we did when I had to cut my hours so drastically, we took a very, very harsh look at what testing encompass within this organization, and from like the Agile quality coach role, what quality changes we actually wanted to implement. We found that within this organization, tester was very much a gatekeeper role. There was very much an approval needed of the tester before we can deploy. And in that sense, there was a prevention aspect of like, oh, the tester will catch that. Now, obviously, that wasn't something that we wanted as a team. We wanted to take responsibility for quality as a unit, as a team. So one of the first things we did was we improved our unit test and we implemented a number of checklists. Now, none of the items that you'll see on this list are very, you know, innovative or like completely world-changing. A lot of these are open doors. But the thing about open doors is that very often we stop seeing them because they're so obvious to us that we actually don't implement them at all. The sheer fact that we did implement these things and that we took them seriously and started, you know, living by this creed meant that we caught a lot of the small issues that normally would have been caught in testing. We caught that much earlier in the development process. We improved the documentation for our tooling, and the changes that we were doing. Very often in Agile ways of working, what I find is documentation is starting to be left by the wayside. It's either this documentation pack that is a gazillion Confluence pages long or SharePoint or Word that nobody understands anymore, or the code is documentation and there's like, you know, you need a high level understanding of how things relate to one another. And documentation was actually really interesting because one of my developers was really the one who spearheaded this change of like, hey, I'm stuck, I'm new to this, and I keep on being, you know, trying to find the answers where we just need a high level overview grid of like, this is where, you know, things are happening. So he really picked up the documentation improvement, and that helped a lot. And I find that is a brilliant way to onboard in a team anyways. Testing as such, one of the reasons we test, and this is something very often forgotten, we don't test for testing's sake. The reason we test is because we want to mitigate risks. So by taking a closer look at our risk assessment process and looking at ways in how we could mitigate those risks, meant that actually we were able to both, by our unit test, catch a lot of changes earlier, but also we moved much more to the shift right in that sense. We got a lot more deployment responsibilities. We were able to take a look at, if we bring this live from a risk assessment perspective, if we bring this live, how will we know that it have failed or if it's working successfully? How can we tell if this change that we're bringing live is doing what it's intended to do, or if there are any adverse consequences? And by looking at that question and looking at the monitoring and observability parts of our application, we were able to then look at, okay, should this go wrong, how will we fix it? If you're able to do that, if you're able to both tell when something's live, you'll be alerted if something goes wrong, and you'll be able to fix that really quickly, you're able to take a lot more risks than if you try to prevent everything to start with. So in quality coaching, what I find absolutely fascinating is that something that I bring to teams very frequently. It's not about trying to prevent everything from always going wrong. It's about how you can, how you can deal with change and how you can deal with the risks that are there. And also include the opportunity risk, which is very often forgotten. Like, what is the risk if we do not go live? Now, the project that I was on a very, very high business priority. So we were able to cut through a lot of the red tape within the organization. As I already mentioned, we got the deployment responsibilities, which is something that was being held back. We improved our traceability within, within the software itself, tied in with the observability. We did a number of different things. We implemented a multiple eye principle much more sturdily than we had before. We did a lot more exploratory testing, and we really had ownership of our entire process. Now, the funny thing is, when I talk about this, is the results were we actually had less issues in production than we did before. We had less incidents than we did before, because we took a much broader look at what quality meant for us and our software than we did when we were looking at it through a testing perspective lens and through a gatekeeper perspective lens. By the time I left for maternity leave, we were hiring for my replacement, and the organization very quickly realized that actually there wasn't enough testing work left within the team, because we had mitigated a lot of the things that we previously were trying to prevent with testing through, we had spread that responsibility throughout the team. And the thing that was really needed within this organization is the things that we were talking about before, that quality culture, and that quality strategy on a cross-team level, that a quality coach would bring. All the things that I was doing as an extra, a lot of which, of course, I had to drop due to my hours. But that was something that was always seen as, oh, that's nice to have. That's an extra you bring. And through this process of changing this team, it became very apparent that not only is it not an extra, it's an absolutely crucial part of the new role of quality coaching and bringing an organization forward. That is where the real value is. And, that's what they wanted to hire for, which was an absolutely fascinating change to see happening, and that realization how it moved from, oh, we just need to hire a bunch of testers, versus we need to improve our culture in a way that will allow our teams to build quality from the start. And that's been a fascinating thing to be a part of. So actually, in a very real sense, my role was not replaced. I made myself obsolete, and the team happily went on without me, but had been fundamentally changed. And that's, I think, a very interesting thing when it comes to the quality coaching role as well, is, we help teams, we improve teams, but at some point we are also happy to say goodbye to teams and help other teams and look at an organization. There's always new challenges, and very often similar challenges occur in a lot of organizations. The role itself is never done, but it can be good to let a team go on without you as well. Evelina, you're muted at the moment.
So now, thank you, Marianne, for sharing your insightful story. Now we are going to show you exercises that you can initiate in your teams in order to, let's say, think about quality coaching. So, Evelyn, can you share with us your favorite exercise?
Yeah, this is a really fun exercise. It was first pitched by Ann Kohler in one of the Agile testing days. And it's called verwondering, and it's a Dutch word because it was very hard to make an English word for it. But you see the word wonder in it, and it's about things you wonder about. And the idea is that when you start an assignment or where you're in an assignment, you see a lot of things. I think you recognize that you see what their team is doing. You look around, you talk to people, you have interviews, you see what they're working. You're working together with the colleagues in the team, with the other team members, and then there might be some things that you think like, "Hey, what?" And you can like think that it's stupid or that it's strange, but just turn it around into wondering, and like, hey, I see something. I wonder why that is. Like, I wonder about why testers are not saying anything during the refinement session. I mean, or why a team asks questions to another team by email and then waits a week for an answer. Whereas they sitting on the next floor or even on the same floor, and and that 1 or 2 days at the office, you also walk along them. Or why acceptance? The acceptance testers are surprised when they hear they can start testing. Like, oh, that's all really strange things. And all those points, you can make a list of them. I make a list of them. And I use them as a starting point for discussion, as a starting point to just open a discussion like, hey, this is what I noticed. How do you see that? Why is it? And then I often get into in return like, oh, yeah, that's just how we do it. Never thought about it. Or, yeah, because we're really, really busy. Or, oh, yeah, that is not so really smart, but yeah, we never got time to change that. So starting in that way and starting the discussion in that way, that also makes other team members or organizations or other teams really aware of things they've gotten used to, but that really don't help the cooperation, don't help the getting the quality mind together. So try this out at your assignment and see what's behind these points. There might be a lot of points they are aware of, but just don't have time to think about. And help them to make time to think about these points and to improve them. So verwondering.
Yeah, a difficult word to remember, but you to pronounce, but easy to remember.
Yeah, wonder. That's
to experience the feeling of wonder.
Yeah, that's a good one. Experience, yeah, the feeling of wonder. So Emna, you also got a nice.
Yeah. So let's say we already did our vendor wandering and we want to go deeper within teams or even organization. So I do recommend the Soon funnel. You can use it for the whole team when coaching them or even for individuals. So what's Soon referring to? It's not to be quick, but Soon it's an acronym for success, the first letter. So try to ask your team or people working in your team what success looks like. So try to understand their own definition of success. And this could be, for example, how you will know you have successfully tested this user story. If is the tester perspective, from testing perspective, try to understand from them when they are feeling successful and happy by doing the thing. And then try to ask them, what are your obstacles? What obstacles are there? What's preventing you from doing the testing you want? Maybe they want to do something, but they have some frustration. If you won't ask them, maybe they won't think about it. So it's a good trigger to understand you as a coach, what are the main obstacles, so that you can facilitate workshops and actions to make those, remove those obstacles and problems. And then ask them, what are your options? So the third letter is O, about option. Try to understand what options they are already doing, or they are already in their toolbox. For example, you can ask them, what testing have you already done? So try to understand their various options. And also the last letter N is about the next steps. What is the next step? Try to make it explicit and understand from individual or teams their next step. Try to understand if they are well understanding their next step. They are having all the requirements. It's like they are having all the needs to go further. So you can ask them, what's the first step we need to take? About, for example, user story to start with, or any other topic. So this is a good tool to have an idea about what's going to happen, and to orient your coaching exercises toward them. So try it. It's a great tool. And also, I have another thing to do. Ask a great open question. So, like, you can combine them with the soon funnel when you interview people, individuals or teams. You can ask a great open question. So the goal of open question to make them think. Even if they won't answer you, try to experience the power of them being silent and let them think. This is part of the coaching. So, for example, instead of asking how will you measure success, try to ask them, what's the most important aspect of this? This will let them reflect. And for that, I do recommend, it's available just by Googling it, 20 great open questions. This is a great list where it's recommended to try this instead of that. So even for your daily work, you can get inspired what kind of questions you can ask instead of basic question, which help thinking within the team. I think this is a useful list that you can use. So this leads to the last part of our session. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we are going to make a little wrap up. What are the main takeaways of this session? First of all, we started by defining what is quality coaching, why it is important in nowadays teams. And also you had a look into the latest trend of quality coaching around the world. So you can get inspired by these different resources that we mentioned. And also we discussed the different benefits and challenges of being a quality coach. And we shared with you the story by Marianne of building whole team quality. And at the end, we shared with you different exercises that you can start within your team, whether it comes to the vendor wandering moments or the soon funnel. And there are even more exercises you can practice. So I hope you enjoyed this session. Feel free to ask questions if you have a few questions in the chat. But now we want you to take some time and answer, give us your feedback. What you learned today, is it something, nothing new, or this is exactly what you need in your role, whether in testing, development, product owner roles, Scrum Master, or maybe your client isn't ready yet for this quality coaching. So we'd like to hear what's your current status toward quality coaching. Feel free to vote using polls, of course. And if you have other comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. Yeah, I see most of the answer are this is exactly what people need in their teams, which is good to hear. And also, I see that some of the answers said that the client is not ready yet. So try to make it visible, make the importance. I personally started as a test lead at my current client, and then it turned, the need was crucial to move into quality coaching because they are under agile transformation, and testing was like done afterwards. So they wanted to shift testing earlier in the process. And that's how we moved from test lead into an agile quality coach. So maybe you could be the one who proposed it to your client as per their current status. So, any other questions we have in the chat?
It's
Now,
interesting to see that it's nothing new. That of course, yeah, some elements are points that we in the testing world and those are advocates for quality have always found really important, and now it's yeah got into a bit into a new shape. So that's that I think is what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I find fascinating as well. Like Susanna mentioned, elements that I recognize and coach a team on, but not get the whole picture. And I think that is partially also the role is very broad, and the possibility of the role is very broad. So it helps to kind of pick a focus element as well, and to allow yourself the time and grace, to take this one step at a time.
Yeah.
And it helps indeed to look at, but it does help to look at quality from that holistic perspective. It isn't an isolation. It isn't just, we're testing this part of the product or the process or this quality as a whole. It all does tie in together. So it helps to bring that awareness to a team, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the remark from Mazin. Do you have any tips on how to handle clients who don't like the title quality coach? Because it sounded too much like counselor, psychologist. Yeah, that's I got that one. And that's why it's nice that it can be a role that can be fulfilled by another function. Like I am now a quality engineer lead, but I'm doing the things a quality coach also is doing. But it's yeah, the name is a lead, so I now have a normal mandate to do things. So that makes it easier. And when a tester can also be a quality coach, so yeah, that is a way to
it's the mandate question as well. Like one of the things we mentioned, that there's usually two ways in which quality coaches start at an organization. It's either through a scrum master, a tester, a test manager, release train engineer role, improvement coaching. You start from a position within that organization and you start doing a lot more quality coaching, and that transforms into the role to the point where sometimes they'll want to rename you as a quality coach, or sometimes that's just a way that you introduce yourself within that team. The other way is one that I very briefly touched upon, where you really have a quality improvement process within an organization. It's a bit larger scale. You do a Kickstarter, you do an analysis of like, we really want to, take this organization to a next level. And then you have a different question and a different mandate. as well. I usually say I don't really care about which name we give as long as the value and the impact is there. And I think that, yeah, negotiation about what you're called specifically ties in with that.
Yeah, nice.
But it does help. Like one of the things we did in the Netherlands is we split out the Agile quality coach role in multiple variants. And that's something that we sometimes bring to clients, but I value specificity in language because it helps you realize like what is your target audience, what is your mandate, what is your scope. So talking about the specificness of like this version of a quality coach will focus on these aspects differentiates it from something else. But that's an internal question within when you're talking with quality coaches as like, you know, what's the scope, what kind of questions do we ask, and it's not necessarily always something you bring about. I've had roles where I say I'm the scrum master or I'm the test manager, I'm the release manager. It was all the same role, but it was a different audience that I was talking about at that specific time.
Yeah, exactly. It's also really important to discuss the expectations a client or a team has of the role when it's really called a quality coach. Like, okay, so what are you doing? And discuss that. And also, what you said, Marion, like focus on specific things. Like, okay, I'm going to deal with the cooperation between the overall teams, for example. That's a really good goal. And then you can report and inform successes on that side. Yeah, preventing to make it really broad and like you do everything, because when you do everything, you do nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the, like the quality coaching role can be, as I mentioned, very intangible. And it's very, you know, there's different ways in which you can showcase your successes and the impact you've had. And that's one of the things that I do find very valuable. We didn't really touch upon it in this presentation, but it is something that is, you know, how do you report on your successes and your team successes when you do a lot of glue work, you do a lot of work to make things happen that other people can shine. And that's important. It's important that you can fade into the background as a coach, but it is also important you get the credit as a consultant. So
yeah. Perhaps it's nice to go back to the slide with the definition of the quality coach thing, because now it's
this one.
Yeah, because I think that's different. That's specific for the role, for the quality coach role, and the challenging and the supporting side to actively build in quality together. So that makes it an important aspect that is quite new. I think we think.
yeah, but it also brings in that like the training and the mentoring. Like sometimes you really do bring the expertise, and then you can step into a coaching in a training role, a teacher role. But it depends on the need, and it depends indeed on like which mandate you ask for as well. Because mandate isn't something you just get. It's something that it's a negotiation. It's like you want to change something, and you find your supporters, you find the people that advocate for you and with you.
Yeah. What I noticed when you solve problems for them, problems that have been lingering for a long time, like test environments or like cooperation between teams, in my case, then they when you solve those problems, they're like, oh, that helps. What can you do? What else can you do? Yeah, and that's a nice remark from John. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This customer rarely knows what they actually need. Yeah.
Yeah, you should prove what's needed and try to convince them by doing the thing, or maybe try to lead by example, try to do it in one team and then show the result. And after that, I'm sure lots of team will want this. I tried that with test automation, like putting automation test within Jenkins for some of the teams, and then the same exercises was like every team when they see it, they want it themselves. So it's easy. Just start the first example and then it becomes very smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, make it a bit easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question? We still have 5 minutes.
We're going to share the slides, aren't we? Don't know exactly how that's being done. Perhaps Ishmeet can say something about that.
Yeah, we will share the recording on the website.
Ah,
Yeah. You'll
nice.
find them later on.
Yeah, and will everybody get the link to the site?
Yes, it is an external website, so yeah, it'll be available publicly.
Okay, perfect. I will send you later on the PDF.
Cool.
Quality is